Yeah, he's back. He's back. It's your friendly neighborhood DP Brown. Guys, welcome again to the Comicsburgh show. We appreciate you guys coming by. So it's a beautiful thing. Welcome to the Comicsburgh show, right? Huh? All right. So, like I said, I'm DP Brown. We're going to be doing some house cleaning today. We got some really good stuff. We're going to talk about keys to preparing your comic for print. So, this is going to be a really good show talking about how to prepare your comic for print. We know we've gone to like the different steps on the from script to store series on how to start your comic, scripted, the artwork, all the way up now to we're at the point of getting your stuff to print, and we'll do like a recap in about the next couple of weeks on some of the stuff that we've talked about in a previous episode. So make sure that you're going back, hit that subscribe button on YouTube, so everything is coming, everything that's coming to us, everything that's coming to you from us every week. I can't talk today. So you'll get a gander of everything that we've got going on in Comicsburgh and everything we've talked about so far as how to make a comic. Okay. So a little bit of house cleaning, get out the way. So make sure that you're following us at Comicsburgh. We're all over social media. We're on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, X, formerly known as Twitter. Everywhere that you're on social media, follow us at Comicsburgh. We are there. Make sure that you're smashing that subscribe button on YouTube. Like I said, hit that notification button so anytime that we're on, that we're on. And make sure that you're telling your friends, and also send the links to your friends to subscribe. If you're on Facebook, do the same thing. Share our feed. So we love for you to share our feed and everything right up on Facebook. We got a podcast. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio. We're going to get on other podcasts like Odyssey and stuff. So we're slowly getting there as far as getting the podcast out to you guys and everything. So make sure that you guys are, listening to us on podcasts. If you can't view us on, YouTube and everything on or Facebook, make sure that you're sending us some feedback. We're at info@comicsburgh.com. We love getting your feedback on everything Comicsburgh related. We got a lot of great stuff that's, that we're preparing for this year for, Comicsburgh in 2026. So very excited on the stuff that we got coming up, with everybody in the Comicsburgh crew. So make sure that you're, checking us out. Go to comicsburgh.com and you'll definitely, check us out and see what we got going on. Okay. All right. So tonight, again, we're going to talk about printing your comic. So basically, it's a lot of keys on making sure that you got a good print, coming up as far as like your comic. We've been doing this thing for like a number of years. We kind of feel like we know some of the ins and outs as far as that we want to share to you. If you got some things that you want to share and stuff, make sure that of course, leaving your feedback, and make sure that you're in a comment section. So you can actually check that out and see that. So I'm trying to get got the ticker up before you print your comic. All right. So before you print your comic. All right. So this is some of the keys that you're going to have to check out before you print your comic. So if you're about to print your comic, stop for a second. Okay. Because printing is where a lot of indie creators lose their money. Not because the book is bad, but because something small got missed. So today I'm going to walk you through on a simple pre-print checklist, and then explain like the difference between digital and also offset printing. Okay. So you can choose the right option and avoid expensive mistakes. Don't want to make those crazy mistakes that'll cost you a chunk of change. This is especially for indie creators printing their first issue, a Kickstarter book, or trade paperback. Okay. So it's a lot of stuff that you guys just need to prepare for. So basically, section 1, why pre-printing matters. Okay. So once your comic goes into print, there's no undo button. You can't go back. If a page is too dark or a logo gets cut off or colors are wrong, that's where paper, that's on paper forever. All right. Most problems don't come from, bad art. They come from a rush prep. A checklist slows you down. I can't talk today for whatever reason. A checklist slows you down just enough to save you some money, stress, and also disappointment. So basically, let's just go ahead and get into it. So let's get into like what the pre-print checklist looks like. All right. So as far as a pre-print checklist, first, to get all the technical stuff out of the way. This is where the most mistakes happen. Make sure your page size matches exactly what the printer specs are exactly. And why this basically matters, because you don't want to sit up there and you created your beautiful art. You had your artist create, the art and everything. You created a really good page. All your balloon settings and everything is in place. All of a sudden, you send it to the printer, and things get cut off. So that's where guides are very important to make sure that you got like everything in place. So I'm gonna show you basically a template from like Quinn Printing. Okay, this is one of the printers I go to and the company goes to for like their print stuff. It shows you like what the comic size, which is usually 6.625 by 10.10 inches, and it gives you like a guidelines as far as like a safe zone, telling you everything important that should be kept within the safe zone, a trim line. This is for like the finish size, the bleed, anything that extends, to the trim line, should extend to the bleed line and also the spine. All right. So if you're looking at a page such as this, so you want to keep everything within this green area. Everything that's important should be within like the green area. Okay. And that goes for like the wording, the titles, the most important thing is really like the wording and everything, all the title stuff, that, and also balloon stuff. Like I say, anything that has to do with words should be kept within the green area. The stuff that you can take outside of the area is artwork that, you can live with being cut off potentially, but may not be, that's the blue area that you're looking at. And the last one, the very far corner is a red. That's where stuff is going to get cut off, just completely cut off. So you don't want to have any important artwork outside of that blue area. Anything that's extremely important, you want to have like within that green area. So, so basically, you want to make sure that you have the proper bleeds, usually 1/8 of an inch, which is what you see right there on the screen. All text and logos, like I said, are safe or inside the safe zone. Make sure that the pages are in correct order. Oh my God. You don't want to have pages out of order. So when the reader comes to do it, comes to look at your stuff, they'll be like, okay, I'm confused as to why this event happened before that event. You made a mistake because you didn't proofread and to make sure that, your pages are correct. And a good printer will send you a proof to make sure before they go to print, because you can't take that back. Or if you try to take it back, it'll cost you money to have it reprint. So they send you the proof ahead of time to let you know, okay, this is how you envision your stuff to go out on print before we actually commit it to paper. So make sure, if you're going with a printer or a good, reputable printer, you make sure that all that is done and out the way. And you have your good proof and everything that you look that over and make sure all that's correct before you actually, go to print. All right. So make sure that all that's correct. Make sure that you follow the printer's sheet and not what you think is right. Let me get back to here. All right. Let me remove that. Ask yourself, is the lettering readable and also print size? Are the word balloons crowding the art? Are the thin lines going to disappear when everything is printed? Also check for blacks. Text should be pure black art. Pure black. Art blacks should be consistent, not muddy. If something looks barely okay on screen, it will look worse on paper. It can't be said, enough. If it looks, crappy on screen, don't try to come into paper. Please go through your editing stuff to make sure all that is good before you do that. That's why we had the editing, pod before this and everything. So make sure you go back to the other, podcasts we did about editing and stuff. Color proofing. All right. So we went from the technical steps. We went to like the lettering checks and everything. Now we're on like color proofing. So color proofing, this is where people, really get burned. So screens do lie. Paper tells the truth. Watch for pages that are too dark and oversaturated. Heavy color shadows that lose the detail. Always review the proof, like I said. Make sure that if you could get a physical copy, if you're not pressed on time, get a physical copy so you know exactly what you're looking at physically. I tend to not get physical copies because I trust my printer. I've been going with them for like years and everything. And for the most part, they do like a really great job as far as getting that, getting the stuff done. So I don't usually get a physical copy, but it's important in your eyes to get a physical copy if you want to make sure that, everything is, to the point. So you won't be disappointed once you get the physical copies. Thousands of physical copies that you print yourself, or hundreds, or what have you. Glossy paper makes makes colors pop. Matte paper makes paper feels like premium, but it darkens color. Your page choice changes how your art reads and everything. So if you're going from between glossy stuff, what makes it like you really shine and all that stuff, makes it feel like real premium and everything. The matte stuff makes it feel like that is more darkens the colors and everything. So if that's the effect that you want to go with, then yes, make sure that you're getting a sample of each one if you're getting that physical proof in. You may have done like stuff in other areas and stuff where you could get that. The good thing about some printers nowadays, they actually send you sample copies of works, so you know exactly what you're getting. So they may send a sample of what a gloss paper looks like, what their matte paper looks like, what a 80-pound versus 100-pound or what have you. So how heavy, and what we talk about pound is how heavy the paper is and everything, how the weight feels and stuff. If it feels too light, it may not feel like a real readable comic. If it feels more heavy, and it makes the customer think, okay, well, this is the creator spent more money on it. And this is more or less for like the indies, because the professionals, not to say that indies not professional, but the main, the DC or Marvel, they've done this for like years, so they know how it goes. So make sure that you're doing all that. Cover check, covers, do like cover specific checks. Okay. So your cover needs that extra attention. You want to double check for barcode placement, especially if you're putting it in stores and everything. Make sure the price is visible. Spine width is important. If the book is thick, make sure that the bleeds on the cover, coincides with the file, that you're sending over. The cover is basically what sells the book, obviously. Treat it like you're marketing, like it's marketing and not just art. So sometimes that you want to make sure that, everything is just looking, pristine and all that stuff. But that cover is like really super important, because it's basically just going to sell your book, all set. Nobody is reading, your stuff first and everything, and then looking at the cover. They're looking at that cover first, and then, which is to, sell your book, and then looking inside to make sure that it's just something that they actually want. All right. Final sanity check. So final sanity check. Before you approve anything, read the entire book from front to back. Check credits and spelling, confirm no missing and repeated pages. Make sure your website or contact information is included. This last read through catches more mistakes than anything else. So you want to make sure that you're not making a mistake as far as anything that you're putting out. It can't be said enough on, like, come on now. it's what we talked about, like I said in our previous pod, as far as top 3 editing mistakes and everything. If you could afford an editor, that's fine. Have them do that. But on your own, this is your money that you're putting into your project and you're sending it out. Make sure that you read it and make sure front to back is everything that you wanted before you spend that money. All right. So what have we said? So we're at the point where we're talking about digital and offset printing. Okay. So there's a difference. So digital. So basically, we're going to talk about how you print. All right. So digital printing is best for short runs, first time books, Kickstarter fulfillments, convention stock. And the pros that you get from digital printing is like lower upfront costs, fast turnarounds, easy to reprint and make changes. The cons is that the higher cost that you can get a higher cost per copy, slight color variation if you can live with it between runs. You're printing under 500 copies. Digital is usually the smart move. Now offset printing, I gotta remember to put these words up. Digital printing and then offset printing. So offset printing basically gives you the opportunity to which is best for large print runs, shop distribution, trade paperbacks. The pros with this type of printing, lower cost per copy at scale, better color consistency, more paper options. The cons is the upfront cost, longer turnaround time, fixed mistake is super expensive. Offset only makes sense when you're confident in the demand of the project. So if your stuff is selling super well and everything, go with offset every time because you can print a lot, get a lower cost per print, make more money. All right. Digital is where you're not really sure, how it's going to go. And maybe it's a first issue, first time and everything. You want to try it in a few, shops and everything. Get that lower print run. May cost you a little bit more per print, but at least you're not making too many copies where it's a big, gigantic mistake from the offset where you're making tons of copies and everything. All right. So basically, there's a quick decision guide. There's here's the simplest way to sort of think about it. Under 500 copies, digital. You're looking at the digital. Over 1,000 copies, you're looking at offset. And basically, you're just going to look at how your audience basically responds to that. All right. So the last section I believe we have here is 4 common printing. Is section 4 common printing mistakes. Okay. So before we basically wrap up, the whole printing thing, and I know we went through it. So thanks, you guys for joining. Here's some common printing mistakes I see all the time. Printing in RGB formatting. CMYK is the way that you want to print, not RGB. All right. So forgetting bleeds, ignoring safe zones, skipping proofs. So that can be egregious where you just rushing to get your stuff out and you skip the proof concept and then you spend all that money, get your copies back and find mistakes. The little stuff that you could have alleviated, it had you just looked at the proof. You're such in a rush, so excited to get your stuff out there and everything. Step back, get that proof. Make sure that it's right before it goes out, because you don't want a customer pointing out your mistake, and you just looking stupid at a convention. Okay, well, it makes you seem like you're not professional. All right. Choosing paper without testing it. Every one of these is pretty much avoidable if you just take the time to do that. So just make sure that you're, just going through all of that. Printing your comics should be super exciting, not stressful. Use a checklist. Understand your printing options. Slow down before you approve. If this, because it's super important that this is the stuff that you're about to make your livelihood on, or if you're doing it for a hobby, that's fine. But the representation of you going out there. So slow it down. So you got to the point where you're you got your artwork and everything, you know, all your editing is good, and you're ready to put it out for the public to actually view. Slow down. You want to make sure everything is right before you get that out there. So basically, I just want to make sure that you guys are, you know, doing everything, as far as doing all that to get your stuff out there. Just want to get a couple more things out before we end this pod. Want to share our Comicsburgh Annual that's coming out pretty soon. So you guys are definitely going to, you know, check that out and see. You know, we got the annual coming out. We got like a few followers so far and everything. So make sure that, you know, you're checking out our show notes so you can actually see what we got coming out soon with the Comicsburgh stuff. All right. So happy to, you know, it's going to represent, you know, a lot of our, you know, the best as far as Comicsburgh. So and we're basically going to be, you know, getting this into stores and stuff for you guys to get, and, you know, hopefully get to your friends and everything. So make sure that you guys are checking that. We got some really good Kickstarters coming out. We got like God's Thunder from the Edge. So make sure you guys are checking that. So let me get that up for you right quick. All right, so that's in Marvin. So Marvin's The Edge is doing like so good right now and everything. And, you know, he has a Blaine Kickstarter coming out pretty soon, you know, and we got like some stuff coming out in 2026 with like Grant, you know, Herrenberg is, you know, got some good stuff, you know, so make sure that you go on to herrenberg.com and, you know, check out their stuff and everything. God's Thunder, The Edge Volume 3. So make sure that you know, follow that and check that out. You know, we got like a gang of stuff coming out on Comicsburgh, guys. So definitely, you know, do all that and go into our notes section, you know, description section, so you can get all our information as far as like, you know, Comicsburgh. But hopefully that you guys, you know, you got a little bit more knowledge on how to print your stuff and the keys that, you know, that come into knowing what your printing stuff is going to look like, and getting that straight before you actually go to print, because you're spending that money. You know, you spend a lot of money so far to get your stuff done. Now we want, you know, you're ready to present it to the public. You know, you're going to spend some more money and everything. So make sure that it's all looking correct as far as that before you get out there. Go to comicsburgh.com, people. Can't say that enough. And support your public library. It's the reputation of what books are and where books are. You know, we love it when you read, because that's a gateway to all things reading. So if you're into the library and everything, they give you a great exposure to graphic novels, which are enhanced comics, which leads you to like the comic store and everything, which is where we want you to be. So thanks again for joining us. We shall see you next week. All right. Peace out.